Hello out there. Hello out there. We're on the air, baby. Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to another episode, another edition, another day, the Daily Bitcoin Journey. Cheers. Not that hot. Not that hot. I'm gonna have to slam this one fast today. Okay. Happy Monday. Let's shake off the rust here a little bit. It is June 17th, 2024. It is the Daily Bitcoin Journey. This show focuses on actionable and logical discussion for Bitcoiners and for future Bitcoiners. We got an abbreviated week this week. We got today. I'm going to be off tomorrow, I believe. Wednesday, yes. Thursday, maybe. Up in the air. And then gone for 2 weeks. So let's make these shows count as best we can. On that note, I'm hoping to, I'm not 100% sure on this. I don't want to make any promises, but I'm hoping to, over these next couple of days, if I have any free time, to do a couple pre-recorded shows. So if you have any requests, I guess, on anything, whether that's a wallet, device, exchange, any part of Bitcoin or anything you want clarified, I guess you might say, I'll do a pre-recorded video and I'll release it while I'm gone. Oh, I forgot to post this. So I set up my goal today in Zap.stream to be for paninis in Venice. I've heard they're good. So kind of my idea, I don't know if this will work or not. I guess we'll see how many zaps we get this week. But kind of my idea here is take all the zaps from this week from NOSTR and from Zap.stream, put it into a wallet, like a wallet of Satoshi, and then try to spend that while I'm over in Europe. My goal is to try to ask every business I come in contact with. I don't know. It's just things you do when you're on vacation. You have a little bit more courage, I guess. So I want to try to utilize my wallet Satoshi, ask businesses if they're going to be accepting Bitcoin. And I think that there's quite a few over there that do. They just did the Bitcoin Prague in Czechia. I think it's called Czechia now, from Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic. Anyways, that's what we're doing. Over in Zap.stream, I see Letha is there. I see Crypto Heathen and Silver Fox. Good morning, everybody over there. And here on YouTube, we got a couple as well. Johnny, good to see you, my friend. AC, Django, Daniel, Jason, and our good pal from Ireland, Dan. Dan's been on the hunt. He's been noticing some trends in the show here. It's actually gave me a pretty good laugh yesterday. But he seems to think that he's tracking trends in terms of hats backwards, what color of hats, door closed, door open, and what kind of movement or price indication that has on Bitcoin. So today he says, cap forward, door closed, hoodie on. Based on that observable data, it's unlikely that there's going to be a major plunge in Bitcoin's price for the next 24 hours. What if I tricked you? What if I just threw on a backwards hat quickly? No, we're not going to do that. Silver Fox is at 420 sats. Good to see your wallet is working. Enjoy the paninis. Thank you, my friend. I think he was having some issues with his zaps and lost a while. I don't know. Could be wrong. But anyways, I appreciate that. Thank you. Chico in the van, our best name out there. And good logo, live from the van this morning. And Praven, good morning. Okay, let's get this posted out, and then we're going to get to some news today. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, well, what do we got? There wasn't a whole lot of news this weekend, unfortunately, so I don't know what we're going to talk about for the next hour. Just kidding. We always find some stuff to talk about. Silver Fox got it silvered out. Okay, so we got kind of the theme today is going to be so crazy it just might work. That's the title of it. But we're tying in a few different things here. And on that note, there's a little bit of a chat going on in the Living in the Future Signal chat. And they were talking about getting their NOSTR set up. And I think it was Bodie said he feels bad that he's always the last one to figure it out and how much of an issue he was having with it. And I just said, like, that it just shows how early we are right now. Because when this kind of stuff is easy for everybody, then the opportunity is going to be gone. So keep that in mind. Anytime you're struggling with anything in Bitcoin, just remember that if this was easy for me or for you or for anybody, then the opportunity has been lost, gone. Right? Daily Diverse. I always listen to you, friend. Well, good to see you. Glad to have you here. I know that there's quite a few people who watch the show live and recorded, obviously, but sometimes they catch the show, sometimes they don't. So big shout out to anybody who's not in the chat, who listens to the show afterwards. And also to the people who are on Spotify and Fountain. Okay, let me quickly do something here. All right. So if you are watching on YouTube right now, keep in mind that we're going to have some changes to the show once I get back from the trip. Some big changes. So what I would suggest, if you are watching on YouTube today, consider going over to Zap.stream. That's going to be your easiest route to watch the full shows going forward. We're going to have a few changes here in terms of the setup of the show, really just to maximize the amount of people who can see the show, who watch the show. I just feel like when you see a video on YouTube that's like an hour and 20 minutes long, which somehow the show turned into an hour and 20-minute show every day. But I just feel like they're much less likely to watch that versus a show that's like 30 or 40 minutes long. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to find a few tricky ways to, I don't know, get more people to watch the show, I guess. It'll be good. So anyways, if you're on YouTube, consider going over to Zap.stream. That's where the Bitcoiners hang out. And that's where we're going to be. Full shows will be going forward. Sachi, good morning. Just consolidated a few more UTXOs and sent them to the cold card. Love today's fee rates. I did see that the fees were pretty low. Let's check on them today. See what we got. But first, I should say good morning to My Path to Fire. I just saw that he or she zapped 100 sats. Thank you. And the Great Gazoo, the best name on Zap.stream, says, get in here, YouTube guys. So there's no ads in Zap.stream, no ads at all. The chat, I pay a little closer to attention to the chat in Zap.stream. You can send Bitcoin, you can receive Bitcoin, and you can send links in there. You can send links, you can send pictures. You can't do that on YouTube. We're slowly shifting away from YouTube. We're not quite there yet, but we're slowly shifting away. So here's the block height, 848,347. If you're transacting on the layer 1 Bitcoin network today, it's a good day to be doing it. 10 sats per VByte. That's the lowest we've seen for a couple weeks now. So just like Sachi, if you got any UTXOs to consolidate, today would be a good day. Let's check on some metrics here. We haven't done metrics for a while. The price today in US dollar terms, 65,651 USD. 1 year ago, you could have purchased a Bitcoin for 26,566. Just quickly pay attention to those two figures there, because it's a big deal. Even though we're down a little bit right now, it's double from this time last year. But at the same time, I feel like the window for people to get to one whole Bitcoin at 26,000 is much bigger than it is at 65,000. And I feel like we're kind of already at the point where we've priced out the middle class, which is very unfortunate. But at the same time, what do you do? If you're in Bitcoin right now, if you're somebody who has a significant amount of Satoshis, just be thankful for that. because it's only going to get harder and harder and harder as we go along here to get to 1 Bitcoin. So if you have 1 Bitcoin, don't tell anybody about it, but cheers. 4 years ago today, you could have purchased a Bitcoin for $9,472. Moscow time is wrong today. We might have a sponsor for Moscow time soon. I don't want to jinx it, but we're working on a pretty big sponsor, I guess you'd say, for the Moscow and Moose Jaw time specifically. I'll just say that. The Moose Jaw time would be who they want to sponsor. One here in Canada today, the price is 90,035 Canadian dollars. The Moose Jaw time is also wrong, but we can check on that quickly. Moose Jaw time is the most important metric here anyways. In my own little bubble. 1108. So the higher that goes, the cheaper the sats are. The more sats you can get for your buck, your loonie. Oh yeah, let's get out of here. Dan says, did you beat your dad at golf? I think so. Probably. Played good yesterday. It was very windy. You would not believe how windy it was here yesterday. And I put out a post about this on NOSTR today. But even on the course yesterday, we were golfing. And in the back of my mom's shot, she was on the tee box, probably 50 feet away. A tree snapped, broke off, fell beside the cart. My mom was on the tee box 50 feet away. It was so windy that she didn't even hear it happen, for one. But it was pretty scary. And then there was kind of trees snapping all over the course. We probably shouldn't have been golfing, to be honest with you, but it was Father's Day. But anyways, my point that I wanted to highlight today on NOSTR was if you look at these trees here, you look at those trees, and in a windstorm like that, we had the top blow off the patio. It was all bent. But how do those trees not fall or snap over when they're above everything else? That's what I don't understand. And I figured maybe just because there's less up there for the wind, it just kind of goes right through it. I don't know. It was interesting anyways. But I think I did beat my dad. He's a pretty good golfer, but he's struggles sometimes with the putter. Pablo, consolidate is right. Dan says, does Bitcoin News still sponsor your show, or was that a short-term agreement? No, they're still sponsors. They're still sponsoring the show. I think it was a fairly long term, so we got some more months left of Bitcoin News. Hopefully they renew it. Robert, if you're watching the show this morning, I'd love to keep the Bitcoin News relationship rolling. Anyways, that's it. That's it for the metrics today. Some Bitcoin news. Actually, let's get to the daily block rewards for today. So the first daily block reward I wanted to give a shout out to was to Maria on NOSTR. This wasn't on Fountain or on YouTube, but it was on NOSTR. And I'll read what she said here. This is from yesterday. She's up 3,000 sats. 3,000 sats from Maria. And she said, good morning, Jor. Thanks for putting out your shows every day. I always look forward to them. So I wanted to give a shout out to Maria and possibly her husband. Last time she messaged me saying that they were listening to the show in the car, her and her husband together, for the shout out that I gave her. So shout out to Maria and her husband for having to listen to me. And the second one here that I wanted to point out or highlight for today, man, YouTube's been acting really strange for me. And I don't know why that is. But this was another comment here that I wanted to highlight, and it was from a video about why are people so afraid to speak up. So this was a clip from Friday's show, I think it was. And I was just talking about how whether it's financial advisors, whether it's doctors, professional athletes during the last couple of years of the pandemic, why everybody was so afraid to speak up. So that was the video about it. And so the first one, there was two really good comments on there. One was from Ian. He's a new member of the Patreon of the Living in the Future. And he said, this is what I call great, all caps, content. Great content. But then Andrew said, Jor, I don't know how you ended up on my feed, but I'm glad you did. I enjoy the common sense takes. God bless. So shout out to Ian, shout out to Andrew for that, for those comments. Appreciate it. All righty. Let's keep things moving on here. Muslim Bitcoiner says, Assalam. Good morning. What a dip. Fed interest rates scaring a lot of paper hands. Yeah, I don't understand what's happening right now. But if you listen to Dan, if you follow Dan's technical analysis over Bitcoin, he thinks it's because I had a backwards hat and a sweater last week. That's why the prices went down. Good morning, Matt. So quickly, actually, Dan just asked about Bitcoin news. Let's get to some news here, but let's talk about Bitcoin news first, the sponsor of this segment. So they did a 2-hour chat last week on Bitcoin privacy and the Samurai wallet. So one of the guys from Samurai came on the Bitcoin news. They do a live show a couple times a week. But anyways, they did a 2-hour chat last week. I retweeted it today on my Bitcoin Journey account on Twitter. Bitcoin Jor, I think, is the handle. But I've been spending a little bit more time on Twitter. I completely cut out my personal account, but I do some stuff on King Golf and some stuff on Bitcoin. I just feel like there's still a lot of people out there who need to find Bitcoin. And as fun as it is to spend all day on NOSTR talking to Bitcoiners, a lot of stuff that I say, a lot of people on NOSTR already know or have seen before. So it's nice to reach kind of a new audience on Twitter. So that's what I'm focusing more on. But anyways, shout out to Bitcoin News. Check out that chat, Bitcoin privacy and the Samurai wallet. I retweeted it. So if you want to check that out today, it's on my profile, Bitcoin Jor on Twitter. All right. Great Gazoo says, have I ever been to Moose Jaw before? Yes. There's actually quite a bit of history in Moose Jaw if you have some time to check that out. I'm pretty sure Elon Musk's mom is from Moose Jaw. There's some weird things about that town or city, whatever you want to call it. But it's only about half an hour or 45 minutes away from Regina, where I've been spending a lot of time in the last couple of years. Found a nice honey from Regina. I don't know if she's watching the show or not today, but so Moose Jaw, I've been there a couple of times for hockey and a few other things, but very interesting city. Check out the Moose Jaw tunnels if you have some time. Shout out to Daniel for 420 sat zap. Good morning. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate the daily 420 there. And we got a new face in the chat today. Parks9, first time watching on Zap.stream. Welcome. Welcome, Parks9. Daniel says, I read that the miners are selling more and that's contributing to the decline. Yeah, I did see that the miners are at all-time low in terms of their holdings. So it seems like everybody's kind of at an all-time low right now. The exchanges, the miners, me. No, I'm at an all-time high, actually. But I did buy some bit axes last week, which I'm going to be talking about, I think, when I get back from the trip. So I bought 2 bit axes. I'm going to start some solo mining, some lottery mining. Blockchain Game Dev says, Bitcoin has become a political issue in America. Do you think this will translate into Canadian politics? I don't know. Canada's in a very weird spot right now. It's funny that one of the leading opposition here in Canada, a guy named Pierre Poilievre, he was talking about Bitcoin when it was like $20,000 US. He said, inflation's running high. Trudeau's not going to stop printing. He was right. If you want to opt out of inflation, get yourself some Bitcoin. So he might have said that actually around 30, but then it kept going down and down and down. It got down to 15, as everybody knows. And as soon as it got down to that point, that's when the liberals just started jumping all over him. Said that if you would have listened to Pierre, you would have lost half your life savings. That's what That's the kind of things that the Liberal Party says. Not only did, I'm sure nobody put all of their life savings into Bitcoin, for one, but unless they actually sold their Bitcoin at the time, which if you did, you're an idiot, but you didn't lose anything. You have the same amount of Bitcoin. It's just worth a little bit less compared to the very fake dollar there. I've one thing I might actually do in the next little while, or while I'm gone, is I saw that Parker Lewis did an article. I think it was called "Bitcoin is More American Than the American Dollar," and I'm thinking about doing an article or a video, kind of the same thing, but for Canada. So Bitcoin is more Canadian than the Canadian dollar. Just because I think that if people heard that and they kind of thought about it a little bit, they might take a little bit deeper dive into it and see what the hell I'm talking about. But I really believe that, especially in the US dollar there. Bitcoin's very, very American compared to the bullshit they got running there. Dan says, what part of Canada do you live in? I'm in the prairies. I'm in the prairies. Manitoba, as people say. I don't know if I actually have that accent or not, but that's how people joke about it. Oh yeah, let's get some news here. Finally, what do we got to start? Oh, this was an interesting one. I thought you guys would like this one. So this was a house. This is a listing. This is from Zillow Gone Wild. And it says, you may remember this Dallas, Texas home as the strangest home in Dallas, but now it's been upgraded to a full liquid cooling immersion system. True multi-use facility, whether you need AI services, cloud hosting, traditional data center servers, or even Bitcoin mining, per the listing. So the house is absolutely beautiful, brick house. This is my kind of house. But then in the basement, look what you got here. Current listing is 2.4 million. Damn. So you got AI services, cloud hosting, but we know that we were going to be using it for Bitcoin mining. Quite the setup here. Quite the setup. So 2.4 mil, if you got that kicking around and you want to move to Texas, this might be a pretty nice home for you. That's got to be in the basement. It looks like kind of a scene from Saw 21, the Bitcoin mining killing machine. So nothing real crazy there. Just wanted to show that. Kind of cool, actually. I don't know. If you're a nerd like I am, that's the kind of stuff you find interesting. And if you're watching the show, you probably are. Next part. From Bitcoin News. There are 3 certainties in life: pizza, poutine, and Bitcoin. Madonna Pizza on Boulevard St. Laurent, I don't know, in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I do not speak French. So Madonna Pizza in Montreal accepting Bitcoin. Pretty cool. And kind of the reason I want to point that out is, one, because it's awesome to see more and more businesses here in Canada are starting to accept Bitcoin. But think about that. So you have a business, just like everybody else. On this street, there's probably 1,000 businesses. Without paying a dime, you get onto Bitcoin News. You get featured on the Daily Bitcoin Journey. But you get on Bitcoin News without spending a dime in promotion. All you have to do is just start accepting Bitcoin, hang a little Bitcoin sign outside of your business, figure out how to accept Bitcoin, get one of those stickers that said Bitcoin is accepted here, and you get so much free promotion for that. All Bitcoiners want to help other Bitcoiners. So I think it's the easiest marketing thing that you could do for your business is start accepting Bitcoin. Because if there's 2 shops back to back, let's pretend I'm walking down Boulevard St. Laurent in Montreal, and there's 2 businesses back to back, 2 pizzerias. I've had a couple beers. I want to soak up some of the beer before bed. So I got two choices there: Madonna pizza or Badonna pizza. Madonna accepts Bitcoin. Badonna doesn't accept Bitcoin. Where am I going to as a Bitcoiner? Obviously going to Madonna pizza. So you get free promotion. You're probably going to get the preference of every Bitcoiner in this growing community. It's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. Jason says, I pick up honey when traveling east through Carenport, bar over HC. I don't know what the Carenport is. But I also I'm a big honey guy. I eat honey every day, probably too much. If you ask my doctor, he would say I eat too much honey. I kind of feel like Winnie the Pooh some days, actually. Dan says, do you have 3 screens, laptops open at the same time for these shows? I noticed that you never look to your left, only forward or to your right. Man, Dan's very observative for sure. I need to start putting some decoy things in here. So when I look left here, I'm looking at nothing. I do have one to my middle and one to my right, as Dan predicted there. I don't have 3. I can't afford 3 screens. I was quite surprised you don't think much of Pierre Poilievre. He calls out Trudeau and schools him publicly. Yeah, I mean, he says all the right things. He does all the right things. But at the same time, there's been so much happen here in Canada in the last 4 years or under Trudeau that I don't know. I know that there's a lot of things that are out of his control in terms of what they can and can't do. And there's been a really weird coalition between the Liberals and the NDP party here. The 2 biggest dipshits on earth, Trudeau and Jughead. But it just seems like all they do is talk, just a bunch of talk. Nothing ever happens. This guy's guilty of more things than I could even list. You give me half an hour of time, I couldn't even list the amount of things that Trudeau has done to Canada. And nothing happens. Nothing happens. So I just think that Pierre, to me, he's a guy who hasn't really done anything. And he went through school. He went through the political science degree. He's never done anything. He's never had a business. He's never actually worked a job before. And I just don't trust people like that. I know that he sits at the same tables as the Pfizer representatives. He didn't do FA during the pandemic to help Canadians. So it's more about his actions than his words. He says the right things, but at the same time, I just don't trust him. I don't trust a whole lot of politicians, to be honest with you. As I'm sure most people don't in this chat. So what else do we got here? We got a couple videos I want to watch. Shorties. This one's kind of cool too. So this is a clean and quiet Bitcoin mining, home Bitcoin mining, producing enough heat to heat a swimming pool. So this is 30. I don't know if this will work or not. Should. No. So that's pretty badass. I don't think that there was sound there, but we didn't really need it anyways. You could hardly hear anything for that video. So that's a clean and quiet home Bitcoin mining producing enough heat to warm a swimming pool. That's a pretty cool setup. Looks like they had some immersion cooling mining, I think it is, where there's no noise, there's no heat. The heat's all captured and put into the swimming pool. So, I mean, you just kind of have to think logically here. If it makes sense to set something up like that in your house, whether you have a swimming pool, there's a spa in New York doing the same kind of thing. Here in Canada, it gets very cold in the wintertime. It's even cold here in mid-June right now. My feet are cold. But just think about that. Everybody's paying to heat their home. Why wouldn't you subsidize it a little bit? So the Bitcoin mining machines pump off so much heat. If you can find a way to capture that, which we've already done, this isn't something that's groundbreaking here, but you capture that heat, you put it through the vents, you heat your home with that. And instead of just paying that, and all of it's just going towards paying the electrical companies or the energy companies, you actually capture that heat and you heat your house with that. So not only are you heating your house, but you're actually contributing to the Bitcoin network. You have a chance to earn some money back, depending on if you're solo mining or you're pool mining. If you're pool mining, you're going to get guaranteed a portion of that back in Bitcoin, non-KYC Bitcoin, by the way. And if you do it solo mining, there's a chance that you're already heating your home, you're already paying those costs. There's a chance that you could win the Bitcoin block reward, 3 Bitcoin. Imagine that. You're just heating your house and your Bitcoin miners hit a block and you win 3 Bitcoin for that. 3 Bitcoin. Imagine what you could do with that. Missing some chats here. Diego, good morning, my friend. Dan says, did you know the original Saw film was restricted to a big bathroom because of their budgetary restraints? That's pretty cool. I love stories like that. Another great budget story is Stallone. One of my favorite, I know Dan's a big movie guy, but one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie all time, is the series Rocky. And basically everybody told Stallone no, so he decided to basically crowdfund his own production of the Rockies. The first one, anyways. I'm thinking after the first one, he got some funding for it from Hollywood. But I mean, I think that's kind of kept him away from the Hollywood circles, is because he actually funded his own movie, and it became one of the greatest film series of all time, the Rocky. And he did it himself. He believed in it. He raised the money himself, and turned out to be a pretty good decision. Pablo says, best part about buying from a Bitcoin business is that you get an instant bond with the owners. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you're going to have something in common. It's an easy conversation to strike up, and you're supporting the more Bitcoin they get from their product or services, the more likely they are going to be to be accepting Bitcoin in a year from now. I think the biggest problem with businesses accepting Bitcoin is that they don't have a lot of traction right off the start, and it just seems like more of a waste of time than anything else, and then they just stop doing it. Whoa. So if you see a Bitcoin or a business that's accepting Bitcoin, make sure you go support them. No such thing as too much honey. Okay, well, I think you and I would get along pretty well. It's the same as Bitcoin. The more we have, the better. Here's a funny story about honey. I don't know if it's funny or sad or whatever you want to call it. So I saw Sweet Sats. I don't know if you guys have heard of Sweet Sats or not, but you can go to their website, sweetsats.io. And so I went there. I wanted to buy some honey with Bitcoin. And I think I didn't do the measurements. on it. So I ended up paying, I think it was 75,000 sats, which is about $75 here, for 2 things of honey. I didn't do the actual, see how much I was getting there, but I got ripped off pretty good. And it wasn't because the company was overselling. I just paid, I think the shipping costs to Canada were actually more than the honey itself. So I paid the equivalent of $75, 75,000 sats for 2 jars of honey. And when they arrived here, one of them was smashed. But anyways, I took a picture of it. I sent it to Sweet Sats. They sent me half of my Bitcoin back. So it worked out. I only ended up paying 37,500 sats for it, but it's pretty expensive honey. So let's check out this next video here. This is, I'm sure some people, I think this is an older video, but it's still, I'm going to use this and then I'm going to show the next video here in terms of mining Bitcoin. So let's get this up on the screen here. This is pretty cool. This is in, I forget where this is. Paraguay, maybe? Somebody in the chat will know. Anyways, let's check this out.
Lago Bitcoin, wasting to hashing. Nasty use cooking oil. Oh, how dirty is it? And this is my baby right there. Mining, and guess what? It's hashing. Kaboom! Lago Bitcoin, wasting to hashing. It's hashing. Kaboom!
Kaboom. How cool is that? So he's turning used cooking oil that would otherwise be, that's a beauty of Bitcoin mining, honestly. For years and years and years, we've been told by the media, by government, by the World Economic Forum that Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Then you see videos like that. And what would be happening with that used cooking oil after they disposed of, or after they used it? What would happen with that? They'd probably have to either pay to dispose of it, or they dump it in the ocean, or whatever it is, nearby river, ditches, who knows? They actually have to pay to dispose of that cooking oil. So instead of that, this very intelligent fella, Kaboom, we'll call him, he's mining Bitcoin with it. So he had his generator hooked up. I'm assuming he's using the cooking oil to power that. And the generator is mining Bitcoin. Same as here in Canada, they use the same thing with methane gas. So all these oil rigs, instead of actually paying to dispose of that methane gas or paying Trudeau our 5th carbon tax to send it into the atmosphere, convert it into Bitcoin, convert it into energy, capture that energy, convert it into Bitcoin. You're done. Way better, way better. And I'm what you would call a climate change or a climate global warming denier. That's what you call me. And I'm fine with that. But at the same time, like methane gas, I don't think that is great for the environment. However you want to look at it, carbon good, carbon bad, I feel like methane gas is harmful to the atmosphere. So instead of sending that out there, you can capture that, convert it into Bitcoin. Kaboom. Kaboom. So that's one use for Bitcoin mining. But let's watch this next video and compare. So this is from BTC Prague, and I don't know if Craig's in the chat or not today, but he was actually in Prague for this. Pretty cool. He saw the Sailor chat. And so unfortunately, a lot of the videos are not out yet from BTC Prague. I'm looking forward to watching them, but I did see this clip from the weekend. Shout out to Jan, though, for 69 sats over in Zap.stream. Thank you for the sats. So this is from BTC Prague. Let's watch it and then we'll discuss. Cool moment from today. This is from Joe Nakamoto. This looks really big. How can I do this? There we go.
True story. I was interviewed for Deutsche Telekom in July 2022. They said, okay, you're taking over the Web3 infrastructure team. You're not allowed to use that word Bitcoin in this interview if you want to get hired. Since 2023, as Joe already said, we are running a Bitcoin node and we are running Bitcoin Lightning nodes as well. And with a chest full of fucking pride, I like to let you in a little secret. We will engage in digital monetary photosynthesis soon. Thank you very much.
Dirk, come back. What does that mean in layman's terms? What is Deutsche Telekom, T-Mobile? What are you doing? What is that last phrase? One more time.
Digital monetary photosynthesis.
So is T-Mobile mining Bitcoin?
We will.
You will. Okay, that is phenomenal. Wow.
Yeah, I like that. The orange journey. I didn't even notice that. The orange journey. So in 2 videos there, we watched a fella, Kaboom, mining Bitcoin with used cooking oil. And then we watched this from BTC Prague, a fella from T-Mobile. I don't know if you've heard of them or not. T-Mobile, pretty big company. So he said that they're running a Bitcoin node. They're running numerous Bitcoin Lightning nodes, and they're going to be engaging in digital monetary photosynthesis. Digital monetary photosynthesis. So capturing the energy from the sun, from the earth, converting it into digital money, photosynthesis. That's bigger than I can even explain, I think, on the show. T-Mobile, going to be mining Bitcoin. Think about how many companies like T-Mobile there are. When they hear that, when they see that, and I just don't know. And this is the reason I kind of wanted to tie this into today's show, and the title of today's show is called So Crazy It Just Might Work, is because think about that. Digital monetary photosynthesis. What the hell is that? And we're kind of at the point now in Bitcoin where stuff like this is happening. 99.99% of people don't know that this is happening. And this is the opportunity here in Bitcoin. And I posted a clip over the weekend, and it was called, what was it? It was a short. It was talking about how Bitcoin mining is going to replace income taxes. And some of the comments I received on that video, I might try to find them here quickly. Not to give these guys any attention, but at the same time, I just want to highlight kind of where we're at in this whole thing. So let me find this quickly. Oh, I got the song in my head now. Ballsy Golf, good morning. T-Mobile mining now. Wow, people got to wake up at some point. That's what I mean. Like, what is it going to take here? What else do we need to see happen for people to realize that, hey, maybe this Bitcoin thing, maybe there's something here. Maybe I should look into this Bitcoin thing. But the thing is nobody's going to see that video. The average person isn't going to find that video and know that T-Mobile is mining Bitcoin or going to be mining Bitcoin. Where's the comments on this video? I can't find them. Son of a gun. Anyways, basically this video, I said that Bitcoin mining is going to replace income taxes over time. And there's people that just like called me an idiot, basically saying how wrong I am, that I know nothing about Bitcoin, that I'm so far out to lunch with everything. And I said, you know what? If this didn't sound crazy to people, then I would be wasting my time. Because if this made sense to people, then there would be nothing new here. There would be nothing to the show. There'd be no point in me showing up here every day. And so I'm happy. Oh, that's what he said. You sound ridiculous. I said, that's a compliment to me. I appreciate you calling me ridiculous because that's exactly where I want to be. And that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point of today's show, and the point of everything right now is that we're in a place where people think that we're crazy, that we're dedicating so much time, so much capital, and so much energy into Bitcoin. They don't see it at all. And that's okay. Because if everybody understood what was happening here, then there would be no opportunity where we are. Pablo says, check out Constellation Heating for Canadian-made immersion pool heaters. Constellation Heating. Let's write that one down. Constellation Heating. And for those wondering, I did remember my notebook today. Rick says, half the watchers haven't smashed the like yet. Let's go. What the hell? What the hell, people? Yeah, we got a fair amount in there, but we could do better. Always. We could always do better. Oh, who's this big zap from here? Mav, I think I haven't done the math yet. I don't want to officially announce anything yet, but I'm pretty sure you won the pool on the weekend, the golf pool, US Open. Mav and I picked the same players pretty much. We both had Bryson and we both had Oberg, but he had Xander Schauffele and I had Cam Smith. So I'm pretty sure this is not official news. This hasn't been audited yet, but I'm pretty sure that Mav won the pool on the weekend. So he's going to get a couple 100,000 sats for his troubles there. Anyways, appreciate that very much, Mav. Thank you for the sats this morning. So that's kind of where we are right now. We're at the point where people think we're crazy. People think that everything we think about, everything we're talking about here online is never going to come to fruition. It's just, we're going to continue in this old system forever. And you have to kind of think about all the factors at play here. So you got the ETFs. They have 1 million Bitcoin now. In under 6 months, they were able to get 1 million Bitcoin stashed away. The price has gone up, the price has come down. But all they've been doing this whole time is buying more Bitcoin. You have the presidential candidates in the US, 2024 election here in November. Trump has come out, talked about Bitcoin mining, saying that he wants all the Bitcoin to be made in the USA, which I love. I said that right after he said that. That's such a brilliant way to put it. Made in the USA, not mined in the USA, because then you lose everybody. When you say that you're mining in the USA, everyone's just like right over their head. But made in the USA. Then you have phone companies. Think about how much infrastructure these companies like T-Mobile already have in place. And there's going to be kind of a war, I think, between utilizing those data centers for AI, for cloud hosting, and for mining Bitcoin. But it's just going to ramp up and up and up. And as this all happens here, you have AI also in the background happening. AI is pretty much taking over the world right now. And as that continues to happen, as AI gets cheaper and better and faster, and more people start to use it, there's going to be a ton of jobs that disappear, which is going to hurt in the short term, for sure. There's going to be a very weird thing happen over these next couple of years. As prices continue to go up, people continue to lose their jobs. But in the background there, instead of people paying income tax, if you don't have a job, you're not paying income taxes. And somebody left a comment saying that, well, these AI companies are going to be the ones paying taxes now and funding the government. Okay, so if they're the only ones funding the government, they're basically the government now, right? Like, but at the same time, as AI gets better and better, it's going to get cheaper and cheaper. As we talked about on the show last week, we were comparing ChatGPT to Venice.ai. So ChatGPT was kind of like the first one through the door. And they've got all this investment. I think Microsoft owns like 49% of it. But they charge, I think, $25 a month for a premium membership to their AI stuff. And then you have somebody like Venice, somebody like Eric Voers creates Venice AI. very private. You don't need an account. They don't track all your search history in there. And it's $50 per year. That happened in like 6 months. So think about 6 months from now, a year from now, this AI is pretty much going to be free to use, I think, or you can pay Bitcoin with it, but they're not going to be paying all the taxes. They're not going to make that much money off it because there's going to be so much competition. The prices are going to be so competitive, and they're not going to be the ones funding the government. So what I think, my theory here, is that the governments are going to start using Bitcoin mining to fund their operations. What's so crazy about that? El Salvador is already on that path to be doing it. Their volcano in El Salvador, their main volcano, has produced over 500 Bitcoin, I think, in the last 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is. So you have this volcano there that forever has just been pumping out heat, lava, and really doing nothing other than scaring people, and people take nice pictures of it. But outside of that, it's hardly been doing anything. And the reason for that is because in order for El Salvador to be able to use that energy, they would have to capture it first. They would have to invest in the infrastructure to capture that energy from the volcano. And then they would have to find a buyer for it. Because El Salvador is such a small country that they're producing more energy than they actually need to use. So when they're a net producer, they actually have to find somewhere to sell that energy to, someone to sell that energy to. And electricity and energy only travel so far. But now that you have Bitcoin mining in play, instead of having to find a buyer for that energy and send that energy somewhere else, you just hook it up to a Bitcoin miner and it basically produces money. And I think once you wrap your head around that, that's one example, a volcano in El Salvador doing that. Every country on earth is going to be capturing their natural resources, whether it's volcano, hydro, solar, nuclear. All of their natural resources are going to be captured, and they're going to be mining Bitcoin with that. And that's how they're going to fund their government operations. And that sounds crazy to the average person. I get it. And I took a lot of shit on the weekend in the comment section for that, for sounding ridiculous. But it's the only thing that makes sense right now to me. I think that anything outside of that, if you're expecting the government to repay their $315 trillion worth of debt, if you're expecting them to continue collecting income taxes for not only people who don't want to pay the government anymore because they're sick of their shit, but also because they're not making an income anymore because AI just replaced their job. You think that path is going to succeed somehow? That sounds absolutely ridiculous to me. So it just really depends on where you are, I guess, in your own Bitcoin journey and how you see things in your head. But to me, like, there's no way out for them other than Bitcoin. Crypto Ethan says Bitcoin in general sounded ridiculous 10 years ago. I think it still sounds ridiculous to the average person today. And Django says because it appeared to be some kind of fancy internet money and nobody knew the fundamentals. That's true. And I still think a lot of people still think of it like that. They don't know what's going on. They don't know where we're moving here. And I think that a lot of people even still today buy Bitcoin without really even knowing what's there. And so I think that this bull run here that we're going to have this fall is going to be much different than the one we had in 2020, because it's the same kind of thing. Whenever you have retail, they're just watching the price. And when the price is running up, they want to be part of that price run. So they buy, but they don't really understand. They don't have any sort of conviction. They don't know the principles, the fundamentals around Bitcoin. And so when it gets too high, they double their money. They just sell it. And then it starts going back down. And then people who don't know what's going on here, they just sell it. And who gets that Bitcoin? Now, BlackRock. And so this time's different though, because we have BlackRock, we have T-Mobile, we have Block, we have El Salvador, we have all these people who understand what's happening here. And they're not going to be selling their Bitcoin just because it dropped 10% or 20% or 50%. So we're going to have a much different dynamic here in terms of the supply, or the demand is going to be much higher. the supply is going to be much lower. And we can stay at 65,000 as long as we want here, this Groundhog Day phase we're going through. But there's going to come a time where that supply is going to run out. And there's going to be so much demand, and there's going to be a huge supply crunch that happens. And when that happens, we're going to go from 60 to, we're going to add a couple zeros there very quickly. Daniel says, I think there's a very good chance that Trump will be doing a keynote in Nashville. How crazy will that be? I have no doubt about that. It'll be crazy, but I have no doubt that that's where. Leave it to Trump. Leave it to Trump to figure out a way to get. When is that even? In a couple months? And the thing for me here, and I know a lot of people will disagree with this, but it doesn't matter. This is my show. This is my opinion. And you can say or think whatever you want. The beauty of the internet is if you don't like my takes on things, you can just keep scrolling. But I think that there's nothing happening here that's a coincidence or an accident. I think that all of this stuff has been planned out for a long time. If you look back to the history of Bitcoin, even though the first Bitcoin block wasn't mined until 2009, this has been like a 40-year progression in terms of Bitcoin. People working on different things in terms of the encryption, in terms of the eCash, in terms of the blind signatures. This has been in the works for a very long time. And even though it seems like a big surprise that Donald Trump is going to be speaking in Nashville this year, I think that he knew that he was going to be speaking in Nashville for a very long time. He's not dumb, and the people who work with him aren't dumb. And there are things in place. I think that there's two forces working against each other right now. There's good and there's bad. And both have their own kind of idea of what the future looks like. And I think that from my perspective, from everything that I've been seeing in the last couple of years, is I think that the bad side, the evil side, is way over their heads. They overplayed their hand. They don't have the trust of anybody anymore. And people are now have their minds open to what could be. What's the alternative to that system? And when that happens, it happens very slowly. But when that happens, that's when good prevails. So I really believe that. I think, like I said, people will disagree with that, but I'm under the opinion that this whole thing here has been by design. If you've heard the term no coincidences, there are no coincidences. I'm a big believer in that. And as much as we think that we influence things like this, I mean, at the end of the day, we do. The makeup of all the humans on Earth and the consciousness of those humans have the ability to change things one way or the other. But there's much bigger things here at play than I think people understand. Crypto Ethan says, imagine explaining to somebody 20 years ago that they'd soon be able to live video chat with somebody on a telephone that fits in their pocket. Exactly. Everybody has such a recency effect in terms of this is how it's always been. And I guarantee in 10 years from now, when there's 1,000 more companies mining Bitcoin, it's mainstream, everybody's going to look back and say, well, yeah, it was obvious. It's always easier to look back and say that, but at the same time, they'll know in their hearts that they waited too long to buy Bitcoin and to learn about Bitcoin. Here you go. Jose says there's that town in Georgia that has cut real estate property taxes because of the Bitcoin mine in their town is producing their tax revenue. It just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. You're not going to be able to tax humans anymore because AIs and machines and robots are going to be replacing a lot of their jobs. So even if AI didn't exist right now, even if AI wasn't even a thought right now, governments would still be unable to continue their operations. And the reason for that, if you look at where your tax payments actually go to, probably more than 50% of your taxes go towards paying down the government's debt. So you go to work 2 or 3 days a week so that you can pay off the government's debt. They're not doing anything with that. They're not building schools. They're not building roads. They're paying down their debt. So even if everybody kept working, AI didn't exist, we'd hit a time where they would be unable to fund their operations anymore. But you mix in the fact that AI is going to be replacing a lot of these jobs, and there's going to be much less tax revenue coming in from humans. They need to do something. And so as Jose said here, there's already a town in Georgia. I think we talked about this on the show a little while ago, but they're already subsidizing their property taxes with the Bitcoin mining because it's producing so much net positive for the government there. Okay, sorry, I missed this. I missed a lot of comments here in the chat. I'm sorry. This is way back. This is from like half an hour ago. So I'm telling you, I'm not messing with you here. If you're in YouTube right now and you want to be part of the conversation in a bigger way, head over to zap.stream. That's where I'm looking. And you don't need to be, you can set up a profile in minutes there. But Emmethy says this bull run has been a letdown. Which bull run? The bull run where we got back to where we were 3 years ago? The bull run hasn't even thought about starting yet. It hasn't. And if you look back to 2020, the exact same thing happened after the halving. 2020, May 2020, the halving took place where they cut from 12 Bitcoin to 6 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. And then you waited. You watched the summer. It went up a little bit. It went down a little bit. But nothing really happened for like the first 6 months. And then it wasn't until September, October of 2020 when it really started to climb. And at that point, there was no ETFs. There was no Trump talking about Bitcoin. There was no AI. None of this. So this bull run has not started yet, and it's going to be bigger than even we can imagine, barring something crazy. Cow farts increase methane. Yeah, exactly. Jose says this bull run died when people started forcing Creed down our ears. Yeah, that's the worst song I think you could ever imagine for the bull run is Creed. Never. That's never going to be a song for the bull run. I agree with that. That killed everything. Oh, do we cut out here? Just as I'm talking up, zap.stream, it cuts out. It did too. Must have run out of Bitcoin. Sorry about that. Anyways, it worked out because we're pretty much done here anyway. So I'm going to scan the chat here for some comments if there's anything else we need to touch on. But if not, we're going to be wrapping things up. T-Mobile is huge in Europe. Yeah, it's not very big over here, but I did think that they're pretty big worldwide. MRNC, I mine solar altcoins, sell those and convert it to Bitcoin. Ninju, hello. Hello. 100%. Praven says, Trump said we need Bitcoin for energy as national defense and income taxes to fund the government. Yeah, and Jason says Trump is already talking about doing it with income taxes now, but he mentioned that they're going to increase tariffs on their imports, and that's going to somehow fund the government. So two things are going to happen. The government's going to shrink significantly, which is best case scenario, and they're going to have to start looking at alternative sources for their revenue because income taxes aren't what they used to be. Yeah. Most people will learn due to extreme pain, hunger, and suffering. It's going to get bad, I think, for a lot of people here. But that's why we're here. That's why we're doing the show, is that maybe somebody comes across this on their YouTube page and says, maybe I should put some of my government bonds into Bitcoin and just see what happens. Dan says that valid point about the AI companies funding the government. They kind of became the government. That's what happened with Facebook, Twitter, the big tech companies. They got so big, they were earning so much money that they basically just became the government. That's the definition of fascism, is when the corporate entities actually start influencing the way the world's governed. Yeah, I agree with this. Honestly, Bitcoin Boomer says the face of Bukele will be prominently displayed on the Mount Rushmore of Bitcoin influencers. So far ahead of his time. I also saw that that El Salvador is now in the process of launching a private Bitcoin bank. And I think it's going to be the first of many of those throughout the world, but it's starting in El Salvador. So El Salvador went from basically eliminating all of their crime in like 4 years, becoming the most dangerous place in the world, I think it was, to the safest place in South America. They're converting volcanic energy into Bitcoin. The tourism's booming there. They're building so much infrastructure in terms of Bitcoin businesses, Bitcoin mining. And now the first private Bitcoin banks are going to be in El Salvador. So far ahead of his time. And El Salvador, if you didn't know, stands for the savior. Yeah. You can't pay off 315 trillion debt when they just continue to spend more on absolutely nothing. Sorry, I'm just kind of going through the comments here because I missed a ton. George sounds like a Q-tard. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that, but I believe that there's good people in charge. Yes, because I think that if there wasn't, then Bitcoin never would have been released into the world. And even if it was, I think it would have been shot down very quickly. And you just have to think logically here. Because if you understand Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is a decentralized ledger, public ledger, transparent, there's really zero benefit to the controlled, centralized entities of the world. So there's much bigger things at play than we understand here. And if you start looking down a few different paths here, you can call it Q, you can call it whatever you want to, but to me, it's just good versus evil. And every entity, every organization, every government is just made up of people. And I really believe that there's way more good people out there than bad people. And eventually they can get away with that for a long time. You can keep people in the dark for a long time, but eventually that flips around. And that's kind of what we're going through right now in terms of the Bitcoin and the financial system that we live in. Yeah, Zap.stream crashed. I must have ran out of sats there. I apologize for that. Too busy yapping today. Yeah, my balance is negative 25 sats. Okay. Well, let's wrap up the show, I think, for today. I'm sorry I missed a lot of comments here. But here's a question. What do you think will the BRICS effects to Bitcoin be? So we saw last week a couple things happened where and I was wrong on this, and I should have admitted this earlier, but I was talking about the petrodollar and the agreement between the US and Saudi Arabia. Apparently there was nothing like official there. It wasn't an actual contract. It was more of just like a handshake agreement between the US and the Saudis. And so that ended. Now it's done. Petrodollar's done. And I also saw that Russia stopped accepting and transacting in US dollars. All their banks got rid of their US dollars. So the BRICS are now moving towards their own currencies. I think they're going to be using the Chinese yen for a while. But I agree with Odell in this, that I think that they're going to be using these currencies, but eventually we're going to end up in the same place because China, Russia, India, South Africa, they're not going to be able to trust each other. So they're going to go through this phase of leaving the US dollar, which is going to be good for Bitcoin. But then they're going to realize that they actually want to use their own currencies. And if you listen to one of the guys there at the BRICS meeting last week, he said that there was a clip of him and Putin, I think it was, and a few other people sitting around the table. But they were talking about the fact that they need their own currencies, and they need one currency that they can basically peg everything to. And he didn't say Bitcoin. But if you think about it, if you think about it far enough down the road here, all of these countries could continue having their own currency, and they back it with something like Bitcoin. So let's say that, you have the ability now. I don't know if I can bring this up or not here, but El Salvador has already done this. No, it's not on here. Shit. But El Salvador has already done this essentially. They've set up their own mempool where you can go and see how many Bitcoin that El Salvador has, how many they bought, all their transactions. And so you back your currency with Bitcoin. People can go and see how many Bitcoin you have. They have their own website. And then that's how their currency gets valued up and down. So depending on how many Bitcoin they have, how much they're producing in terms of their mining operations per year, that's when people hold or don't hold their currencies. So I think that that's where we're headed to. I agree with Emmett here. It'll fail for sure, because they're still putting their trust in each other. And whenever you have the ability to corrupt, and whenever there's humans involved and they have the ability to influence things like this and manipulate it, it fails. It has forever and will continue to fail forever. So you need a currency that nobody controls, that's totally decentralized, that has a fixed amount that you can peg everything to, and that's Bitcoin. I agree with that. I think the BRICS will fail. Even with gold. Let's say that the BRICS nations back their currency with gold. Okay, so Russia says they have 500 tons of gold, and that's what they're backing their currency off of. Prove it. Prove it. If you have the option between investing in Russia, ruble, with their gold, their 500 tons of magical gold that they have, they probably do, but I don't know that. I'm not going to be watching a live stream of their gold vaults. Or you have El Salvador, who they say they have 5,000 Bitcoin, whatever it is. They say, okay, here's our website. This is our Bitcoin. Which one are you going to trust? The one in Bitcoin or the one with gold in their vaults? Canada has no gold. The US, I don't think, has any gold either. They say that there's a bunch in Fort Knox, but when was the last time that was audited? So even though backing your currency with gold would be much better than we have right now, it's still not going to work, because there's still an element of trust there that's required for the governments that they're actually holding this gold. And that's not required with Bitcoin. So it's really just a matter of time. Keep that in mind. When things are hard, when people call you ridiculous, that's a compliment. You're in the right spot. Because if things were easy and nobody was calling you ridiculous, then the opportunity's gone. So I think we're going to be ending it there today. We're over an hour once again, and our Zap.stream stream cut off. So let's call it a day here. Praven says, how do I find you on Zap.stream? Well, you can do two things. You can just simply bookmark this, the link I'm about to share with you. Or you can just go to Zap.stream, and it's pretty much right at the top there. You can just click the stream. But if you bookmark bitcoinjourney.ca/stream, and then every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, you just go to that, and the Zap.stream should pull through, assuming I have enough sats to be funded on there. So there you go. Emmett says Bitcoin will be the one world currency. It will be. It'll be the, I don't know if it'll be the one. There won't be just one currency, in my opinion. Everything's my opinion here, but I don't think there's going to be one currency. I think it's going to reprice everything. It's going to be the measurement. Because in order to accurately measure things, anything, you have to have a fixed denominator. And that's something that we've never had. And it explains why our society is so corrupted right now, is because everything's just based on nothing. The US dollar, we price everything in the US dollar. And we don't know how many US dollars there are. We don't know how many US dollars there's going to be in 10 years from now. And so you can't accurately measure anything against that, because the denominator there is not fixed, right? Once you understand that everything that we know in terms of the value and the pricing of the world is just an illusion because there's no fixed denominator there. And until you have that, you can't fairly measure anything. And even with gold, let's replace the fiat dollar with gold there as the common denominator. Let's say that we have a very accurate prediction of how much gold there is out there, and we can use that for the denominator. Okay, well, the price of gold shoots up because we're now measuring everything based off of gold. The denominator is going to change again. It's going to fluctuate. It's going to go up. There's 2% usual annual inflation on gold, but if the price and the demand shot up for gold, they would just mine more of it. It's not fixed. You can always find more gold. The sun basically is just a big ball of gold. So you need to have a fixed denominator in order to fairly and accurately measure anything in the world. And with Bitcoin, you have that. And once you wrap your head around that, it just makes sense. So even though it seems like the price of Bitcoin's going up and the price of Bitcoin's going down, it's not. It's just a completely manipulated illusion that most people are still living in that world. But if you understand that the amount of Bitcoin you have is going to get you more in the future, that's it. It doesn't matter what the short-term price movements are. Bitcoin is becoming more valuable because more and more people are using it. The network's growing. But at the same time, what's really happening there is everything's just repricing itself in terms of Bitcoin. So there you go. I need to go get ready for the trip. I need to shave. My beard's out of control. Anyways, as deplorable Nerf Herder says, everybody have an amazing day. Thanks for coming by today. Thanks for the sats over in Zap.stream. And thanks to the people who moved over from YouTube to Zap.stream. That's what we're pushing for going forward here. So anyways, we got a couple more days before we unplug for a little while. But in the meantime, have yourselves a great Monday. Stay calm, stay cheerful. Be glad you're here. Be glad you're here at this stage of the game. And that's it. 5-star rating from Ninju. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the like button. Leave a comment after if you feel like it. And let's keep growing here. This is a lot of fun for me, and I very much appreciate everybody showing up here in the chat. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all the comments, but we got to all the ones in the Zap.stream. So that's it. There's still stuff happening in the chat, but that's okay. We got to go. So have yourselves a great day. Thanks again. We'll see you right back here first thing tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.